guys win. When you were innocent enough to believe that God would come to save the world. When you were pure enough to realize that the triumphs and the stories you knew were in some way truer than the defeats in the newspapers your parents were reading. Do you remember that? Well, you were right. The story of history is the greatest story ever written, because God himself holds the pen, and we ourselves, the characters within it alive during the 2020s, are the most blessed of all. Because although we've only read about the exposition in the beginning, and the climax in the redemption, we live in the time of the denouement. This is the time of fulfillment. God is about to arise and take back what is his, and your own eyes will see it. If only you do your part. If only you spared nothing to make it happen. So how is it that I am saying with absolute certainty to you now that the most amazing news you could possibly imagine also just so happens to be true? Because God told Noah the flood would happen, and it did. Because God told 99-year-old childless Abraham that he would be the father of many nations, and so it happened. Because God told Israel's prophets that the Christ would come to save us, and so he did. Because God sent his angel to a lowly virgin from Nazareth to announce his incarnation, and incarnate of this Virgin Mary he was. Because this God made man promised in the greatest prayer, the only prayer he taught, that his kingdom would come, and his will would be done on earth as it is in heaven. And because God has now spoken to another lowly virgin of our own era, to announce to the world that the time for the fulfillment of his prayer has come. He has come to an ordinary woman named Luisa to tell the world through her that all he asks of us is that we earnestly beg him for the coming of his kingdom, and that we desire his kingdom and know that he wants to give it. He has come to ask us to hand over our own self-wills to him, so that he may give us the greatest possible gift, his own divine will as the very animating force of our lives. He is asking us to say repeatedly and mean it with all our hearts, Jesus, I trust in you. Thy will be done. I give you my will. Please give me yours in return. Let your kingdom come. Let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And when enough people are saying that, the world will be radically, miraculously transformed before your eyes. It is that simple. I'm a philosophy professor at a secular public New York college and an engineer. If there were any way to doubt this message, I'd be the first to do so. If there were any reason to reject this, I would have been the one to find it. But my job is to follow reason wherever it leads, no compromises. And from this duty it follows that my job is to announce this message to you. Because even if someone were twisted enough to want, to doubt, and reject the greatest news imaginable, he'd be out of luck, because there is no possible way to doubt this. We are confronted with a fact. The kingdom of God is about to come more fully on earth than ever before in history. Everything will be transformed. Your life and the entire world will be transfigured so gloriously that you can scarcely imagine it now. I'm not asking you to trust me. There's no need for that. I'm just asking you to acknowledge the facts. Each of them, by itself, shows the truth of this message. Taken together, they make its falsity categorically impossible. Luisa was endorsed by multiple canonized saints, one of whom dedicated his life to promoting her revelations. She lived a life full of miraculous, even unprecedented phenomena. She was universally regarded as a saint by all who knew her or knew of her, and 70 years passing since her death has seen no mar in her legacy of holiness, which only grows by the day, even with miraculous intercession from heaven. Every single event related to her writings and her cause of canonization has proceeded approvingly for decades now, guaranteeing an eventual positive result. So much so that the Vatican itself even recently published her official biography, strongly endorsing her and her revelations. There has not been a single mystic in the history of the Church who has seen this degree of verifications of authenticity and later proven to be a fraud. We are stuck. If you have even the slightest knowledge of mysticism, private revelation, or prophecy, you will realize that it is categorically impossible that we are dealing with a mystic with fraudulent revelations. Page after page, volume after volume, decade after decade, Jesus' revelations to Luisa have, as their entire purpose, promising the coming of the kingdom on earth if only we want it, and the gift of living in the divine will. The greatest possible gift, if only we desire it and ask for it. This isn't a new Bible. It's a private revelation. It doesn't do away with anything that came before. In fact, it presupposes that you are already doing your best to be a friend of Christ's, heed his gospel, and become a saint. It changes no laws, no doctrines, and no sacraments. And it doesn't replace any of the private revelations heaven has already blessed us with. In fact, it makes all of those calls even more important, since responding to them can now be done in the divine will and accomplished even more powerfully. But it is the crown of all private revelations, the one that they've all been leading us toward, and the one in which they all find their fulfillment. Search all the private revelations in the history of the Church, and this is the only one you will find that was given the express mission by Jesus of ushering in the fulfillment of the Our Father prayer. The coming of the kingdom of God on earth is promised by more prophecies, popes, and approved revelations than I can count. But only one not only promises the era, but also itself has the power to bring the era about. That is, these revelations on the divine will. And their becoming known is up to you. By watching this video, you've been called to join the most elite fighting force in history. You've been called to join Our Lady's militia, hastening the dawn of the era. And here are your 3 battle orders. First, you need the gift of living in the divine will. Don't let a day go by without saying repeatedly, Jesus, I trust in you. Thy will be done. I give you my will. Please give me yours in return. Let your kingdom come. Let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Second, learn more. The more you know, the more powerful your proclamation becomes. To learn more, go to proclaimthekingdom.com. And that brings us to our third point. Proclaim this. Yes, lay down our lives. If proclaiming Christ the King ever requires the shedding of blood, that too is worth it. Because heaven will be your reward. And heaven is infinitely greater than even the kingdom of God on earth. Let's be honest, the whole world is falling apart in front of our eyes. It's the devil's kingdom that's reigning right now. If you doubt that, just take a look at today's headlines. But God is going to smash his kingdom to pieces. And on the very ruins that we will see in front of us, he is going to build a new world with his kingdom on earth. But he can't do that until enough people know about this and want it and ask for it. So if you prefer that the world limp on in agony for decades longer, then just ignore this message. But if you want to save the world, then let's make sure that every single person on the planet knows what you just learned in these last 9 minutes. Spare no expense and fear no risk. It's worth it. Make it happen, whatever it takes.